are listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Stacey Duwe. Stacey runs her own consulting business, Right Fit Solutions, helping her clients with all the things she loves about proposals, for clients that range from small tech-based startups to nonprofits to Fortune 100 companies in commercial and government sectors and across the range of industries. Stacey earned her BA in English and Women's Studies from Cleveland State University in Cleveland, Ohio, is APMP certified, foundation and practitioner, and was recognized in the inaugural class of APMP 40 Under 40. She's also an active APMP member and has served on the Greater Midwest Chapter Board of Directors since 2017 as the Publications Chair, then Secretary, Vice Chair, and currently as Chapter President. Welcome, Stacey, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ashley and Bhaskar. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
If you've listened to the podcast before, we like to start in the beginning. So we're curious, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And where did you go to school?
Yeah, so I grew up in northern Michigan. I was born in a little town called Charlevoix, Michigan. Their slogan is Charlevoix the Beautiful, and it truly is a beautiful little Lake Michigan town. I grew up all over northern Michigan, never really stayed put anywhere. My parents moved a lot, so I sort of feel like sometimes I know everyone in like the greater part of northern Michigan. I graduated from high school in a little town called Grayling, and I didn't really get serious about college until I moved to the Cleveland, Ohio area in my 20s.
Oh, that's interesting. So what took you to Ohio?
Well, my mom had married a guy who owned a couple Dairy Queens down here, and a friend and I had decided to come down here and visit one summer, and he put us to work managing his stores, and we loved it so much we decided to stay. We were small town northern Michigan girls, and being in the Cleveland, Ohio area was pretty exciting for us, so we kind of fell in love with the area and decided to stay. And then eventually I met my husband here, and he was from the area, and the rest is history. I've been here over 20 years now.
Oh, that's amazing. So Dairy Queen, how did that get you into the world of proposals?
Oh my gosh. Well, it definitely did not lead here. There was no, graceful segue from managing a Dairy Queen and being a supreme cake decorator to ending up in the proposal profession. But I was a non-traditional student. I really didn't focus on college and get serious about it until my son was born, who's now 18 and a senior in high school. But when he was young, I knew that I needed to get serious about college. So I went back. I attended Cleveland State University, and I majored in English. Love reading, love writing. It was kind of my passion. So I decided to head that direction and see where it took me. And that's ultimately how I ended up here. I did my undergrad in English, and then I went to grad school for English as well. And I had some great opportunities to teach at the university in the Writing Center and the Freshman Composition Program. I met some really inspiring entrepreneurs early on in my undergrad career, and took an internship as a proposal writer with a nonprofit when I was wrapping up grad school. And my first job also, it's interesting, but it was with CGI Federal, and I was hired as an internal auditor, which if you had asked me back then what an internal auditor was, I didn't have a clue, but I guess they thought that I had the skills, the communication skills, and the writing talents to pull off this position. So I trained at CGI as an internal auditor. I picked it up really quickly and actually loved doing it, although it's a very detested position because you're essentially auditing internal business processes and telling people where they're non-compliant and making them comply. So you're obviously not very popular, but it was fun. I liked it. And that team that I worked on as an internal auditor was also, strangely enough, the proposal team for the division here in Cleveland. And once I picked up auditing, they were like, hey, try this. So I started working on proposals, and truly the rest is history. They introduced me to APMP. That was way back in 2008, and I have been here ever since.
Oh, wow. So you eventually went on to get into consulting after that?
Yeah, so I started my consulting firm in 2011. When I started at CGI, it was a very entry-level position, and I left CGI to go work for this general contracting firm. They were a general contracting arm of a large industrial high-performance roofing manufacturer. So we were doing bids for the government, like putting roofing systems and solar systems on VA hospitals, for instance. We had GSA contracts, and we did a lot of federal contracting. And I was a party of one at that company. It was just me working on a lot of bids, supporting over 200 salespeople across the country. And I experienced proposal burnout pretty quickly. So I started my consulting company in 2011 just as sort of a side gig to, use my writing background for some more creative endeavors. Because, if you've done federal work, it's not very creative. It's very structured. There's a lot of forms. And when you're writing about roofing in particular, there's not a lot of room to get creative.
Right, absolutely.
So I really just started it as kind of a passion project to find something just to spark my creativity, like on nights and weekends. And over the years, I've treated consulting in different manners throughout my career. So I kind of have weaved in and out of full-time work and consulting as a side gig to consulting as a full-time gig over the last 12 years.
Oh, wow. That's really exciting that you're able to kind of just use it as it best suits you for, that time of your life. So you mentioned experience working in multiple sectors. Are there similarities and differences across those sectors?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are. I think I'm a process person. So I always tell people, especially people that I'm mentoring or that are thinking about consulting, that, you don't have to be kind of segmented into a bucket of an industry, for instance, if you're comfortable in like the AEC industry. That doesn't mean that you're not qualified and have the skills to work in the financial services industry or the IT industry. If you're armed with, the proposal best practices that we all learn through APMP, those skills are highly transferable. And the information from like a subject matter expert perspective that you learn in the different industries will come to you. And obviously we're very resourceful. I think we have to be by nature of what we do. So I think that, us in this industry in particular in proposals are really well equipped to kind of transfer industries and use the skills and experience that we have regardless of the industry. But I do see similarities and differences, especially across like the nonprofit sector versus the public sector, the government sector, or even commercial.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've worked on a bunch of different, proposal efforts in different arenas. Do you have any memorable efforts that stand out to you?
Yeah, I've had some painful efforts for sure. The ones that you remember are the ones that you're like, this is crazy. It's too close to the lawyer and you end up having to drive the bid somewhere. Those are memories that no one wants to have, but I think we all do.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of the opportunities that I've had lately with my consulting clients have been really exciting for me and memorable. Lately, I've been working with new startup companies on going after government cyber deals, and that's been a learning experience for me. I didn't have a lot of experience, particularly with that program, but I'm very fortunate to have some colleagues that I could tap and turn to that do have experience. So, recently, those have been the most memorable for me. They've been opportunities for me to learn and challenge myself and my skills.
Oh, absolutely. We mentioned some of your achievements during the intro. Are there any other key achievements that you're particularly proud of so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess I was really excited to be recognized as an APMP 40 under 40 member, and I know I'm in very good company. I know Bhaskar, you mentioned too that you were part of that inaugural class, so I'm in very good company here. It's been exciting to be a part of that group, and also I think for me the things that I'm the most proud of in my career especially are the opportunities that I've had to mentor others. I told you that I've weaved in and out of full-time versus consulting, and one of the roles that I took that I actually just left pretty recently to go back to consulting was leading a team for Wells Fargo Insurance. I was hired to be their manager of their property and casualty division. And that led into working with their employee benefits team and then ultimately the national team. And it was a great experience. They ultimately sold off the insurance business to another large company. I stayed around for about a year, and I absolutely love the team that I worked with. But it was fun for me because when I came on at Wells Fargo Insurance, there were people on the team already that were there when they hired me to lead it. And they had been pulled from all areas of the company. So these were people who didn't have any clue what APMP was. They may have had some kind of periphery experience with proposals, but it wasn't their career and it wasn't what they had trained for. So it was awesome for me as an experience because I got to come in and introduce them to APMP and start to implement best practices. And some of the people on the team really flourished and found that it was validating for them to know that this was a career that other people actually just focused on and that they could kind of find their home in. So they jumped right on the bandwagon of APMP, and 2 of them got certification in that first year. And have since left there as well and have very successful proposal careers now. So to me, that's probably one of my favorite accomplishments, is just being a part of their journey. And I really love that, and helping and watch the growth and accomplishments of others that I've interacted with.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that's so rewarding to see them blossom and grow and really just kind of catch on and get it. And just, it's great. So before we delve a little bit further into, your career and maybe some APMP stuff, can you tell us 3 things that not many people would know about you?
Oh, sure. Well, I don't know. I think I'm kind of an open book, but I suppose there's probably lots of things people don't know about me. I actually love sewing and painting. I don't have a lot of spare time because I do bury myself in work, but when I do have time, I love to be creative and sew and paint, and I'm actually a quote unquote selling artist, which I think is hilarious because I'm not talented, but my husband's friend with a local comic book shop owner, and I had painted something for my husband for his comic book room, and we had prints made, and somebody purchased one of the prints from the comic book shop, so I can jokingly say that I'm a selling artist. Yeah, super fun. I also probably spend entirely too much time comic book hunting. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that about me because I don't talk about it often, but my husband's a big collector, and I would actually say from my perspective that any amount of time dedicated to comic books is too much time. But I think I actually am starting to enjoy it, which is the scary thing. So he drags me all over the place to comic book shows and conventions and flea markets, trying to find these, bucket list comic books that he's looking for. So that's sort of fun and maybe surprising to some.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the third thing would be just my love for remodeling projects, which I think is a little funny because I don't actually like to do the physical work for remodeling, but I love the design aspect. I think sometimes that interior design is a miscalling of mine because I have a lot of fun picking out the materials, the tiles, and matching things together, color matching, and then actually designing the space. So I found that I really enjoy that as a homeowner, but the physical part of it, I get to put my project management hat on and boss my husband around for the actual physical work. So I think maybe that's why I love it too.
Yeah, match made in heaven there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you touched on this a little bit with your last role in terms of mentoring and coaching. You kind of have been known as this go-to person for resume building and career coaching. Can you share some of your tips?
Oh, sure. So that's a good question. I guess it's funny, I don't really see myself as a resume expert, but I think my friends and family do, maybe because I have a degree in English and they know I'm a writer. So sometimes I begrudgingly accept, but I'm happy to help anyone who needs help. And I usually just take a look at the resume and I kind of compare it to some of the ones that I've done in the past and, give some direct feedback on where they can be more direct or, where they can custom tailor it to the job that they're applying for. And I think that those things have been really helpful for them in the past. So tips in general, I would say, really look at the language that's being used in the job postings around the job that you're applying for and make sure that you're integrating those keywords into your resume. But I'm definitely not a professional resume builder by any means.
Yeah, it's sort of like a proposal though, right? You want to use those keywords and make sure that you're using the quote unquote customer's language. So, a lot of the same advice we'd give to people, writing a past performance or a proposal resume, I think we give to, those who are seeking resume advice as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked a little bit about the importance of APMP to you. And I think you mentioned when you were at CGI Federal, that's when you first became a member?
Yeah, so that team that I belonged to was part of the proposal department, and they were APMP members, and they introduced it to me. And I'd never belonged to a professional development organization before. I was pretty much fresh out of college, and it was my first introduction to being involved in a professional development organization. There were times over the years where my membership dropped or lapsed. Maybe I was with a company that didn't support it back in the day when I didn't make that a mandatory requirement, or life just got in the way. But for the most part, I've been a member since 2008, and I've been a huge advocate for APMP. I actually had someone ask me on this contract that I'm working on currently recently, tell me a little bit about APMP, like, what do you love about it? And I basically was like, how much time do you have? I'm a little cultish about it. Like, I love everything about it. So
oh my goodness.
I feel like a cheerleader sometimes.
Yeah,
it's a great organization.
Absolutely. It really is amazing. Do you remember your first time attending Bid and Proposal Con?
I do. My first year attending actually was in 2013 when it was in Atlanta. And it was such an awesome experience. Like, I had been involved, but mostly just with like the webinars and the training up until that point. And I think that was kind of a turning point for me of getting involved, was coming to conference for the first time. It's something that I wish every APMP member could experience, because it is truly life-changing. I mean, the first time that you are in a room with, I don't even know how many people attended Atlanta in 2013, but a lot. So a lot of people that know exactly what you go through day in and day out. It's like you find these are my people, they understand what I'm doing. And it's not something that you experience just in your job or at your company, because you're usually working with technical people or sales people, and they're not part of APMP, so they don't get it. But it was life-changing for me, I thought.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's a very similar story from everybody, right? It's like that aha moment where you find this like huge arena of individuals who really get you more than anyone who you thought would ever get you. So I think everyone listening can totally relate with that. So you've been very involved at the chapter level. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement and how your roles have kind of maybe changed or evolved in some of the initiatives that you're proud of?
Yeah, sure. I love talking about APMP, and especially our awesome Greater Midwest chapter. So happy to. That first conference that I went to back in 2013, I actually was on the bus from the airport to the hotel. And I'm a chatty person, so I started talking to the other person that was in the bus being transported to the hotel. And I didn't even know that we were going to the same hotel. But we started talking, and I learned that she was on her way to BPC as well. That was Betty Storino. And it was just amazing to me that I don't know, I guess I'm sheltered in some ways. Small town Northern Michigan girl. I don't travel much, or hadn't at that point. So it was just really amazing to me that I was like in transport with someone going to the same place as me. So we hit it off. I fell in love with her instantly. So I palled around with her at conference, and she's part of the Greater Midwest chapter, and I'd kept in touch with her over the years. And I can't remember honestly how the conversation started, if I reached out to her or she reached out to me, but somehow she got me connected with the board and had suggested that, I try to fill one of the open positions that were coming up. So I took a look at where the needs were, and I came on in 2017 as the publications chair, and have just been with the board ever since. So I rolled into the secretary position in 2018, and then the vice chair last year, and the president this year. And it's just been such an inspiring experience for me as a professional. just to get to work with this amazing group of very talented and super inspiring individuals who really care about our members. So it's been great.
Oh, absolutely. And I understand that the Greater Midwest chapter has some pretty cool programs. There's like a virtual consultants networking group, a book club, certification study group. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the cool programs that your chapter has?
Yeah, definitely. So we've always had some really great programming that we've provided at the Greater Midwest chapter. So our annual symposium, first and foremost, last year was our 7th year doing that.
Wow.
And it's just kind of a great event for us to bring our chapter members together, people who may not be able to attend VPC because of time constraints or the cost constraints or whatever that may be. And we cover 12 states in our chapter, so we're very virtual based. We don't have a lot of opportunities to get together broadly. So the symposium is this awesome opportunity for that. And also our mentorship program has been around for a couple years at least. I've participated in it a couple years and started back in 2017. And I know it was in existence before that. So that's a great program where we connect members and mentees, and I know other chapters do that as well. But some of the stuff that we started to implement last year and are really bringing into fruition this year are like our GMC Gives Back program. And the idea behind that is that, you know, we have this collective member base of almost 700 members now. And like I said, we cross 12 states. So collectively, we have the ability to really make an impact, you know, in the states that we live and work or in the industry. So we've really been working on kind of defining that program. And Christine Sawinski awesomely stepped up to be the chair for that and has devised some great programs, kicking off with our resume review program that's actually starting right now. So she reached out through our communication efforts and has over 20 volunteers to review resumes for APMP members.
Wow.
So we're going to kick that off soon. And, you know, we understand with COVID happening now that, you know, there are some people who may need to be looking for a new role or just want to brush up their resume.
Yeah,
so we've got some volunteers at the ready to help with that. So I'm super excited and inspired by that program. Yeah. And then last year at BPC, I met Karen Tent-Dean, and she is another fellow consultant. She owns a company called Once Upon an RFP, which is absolutely my favorite name for a company ever.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. So she had approached me and asked me about the potential of, you know, kind of creating a group for consultants to network above and beyond what APMP already offers. And I love this idea. And we actually talked to Sam Enslin about it and decided it would definitely be worthy to kick off. And she put together a proposal and pitched it to the board of directors last year, and it ultimately was approved, and we launched it at Symposium last year. So this is a virtual group that she runs on Facebook. She provides valuable content daily to members that I think is applicable to anyone in proposals, not just consultants. But basically the idea behind the group is that we have each other to network with if we have questions like business-related questions or proposal-related questions or anything around consulting, or, you know, people who are thinking about freelancing or already freelancing. So it's a great networking opportunity that I've really enjoyed being a part of.
Absolutely. It sounds like an amazing resource, particularly for maybe even those who are new to consulting or those who have even been around for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And then some of the other ones that you mentioned, I feel very fortunate because I think, you know, in our chapter especially, I think we're lucky to have such a broad, expansive member base. But it's really inspiring to see how many people step up and want to take a leadership role and help provide value for our members. So we had someone sign up to be our book club chair. And then that idea was actually born out of her mentorship pairing with Haley Flam, now Watkins, last year. So Karin Olsenheld and Haley did a book club during their mentorship. And it was just kind of brought to life this idea that we could have a chapter book club, and we've opened that up for all APMP members as well. So that club is run on Goodreads. So if anyone's ever looking for, you know, a professional development opportunity and loves reading books, definitely check out the GMC book club. Our certification study group is something that we're really excited about, just kicking it off this year. So we, as a chapter, decided that we want to give back to our members and helping some of them achieve certification. And I know we have all of our wonderful APO organizations, and they provide training and the testing. But we've decided as a chapter that we also want to contribute to that. So we have some newly graduated foundation exam awardees, and they've signed on to champion this program and build sort of our own GMC study group to help some of our members achieve foundation certification. So we put together some eligibility criteria. People signed up. They said that they wanted to participate. And as long as they meet the eligibility criteria, then we pay for their exam and let them participate in the study group. So I'm super excited about that. The group is finally kicking off the actual study portion over the summer. So everyone who signed up has been busy meeting eligibility criteria, getting involved at the chapter level, maybe on a committee or writing a blog post, or contributing on social media and being engaged and showing their commitment to this program. So it's been really exciting to see that develop.
Wow.
And then
Sorry, I was just going to say that's a really amazing way to encourage, participation at the chapter level. That's great, and it sounds like it really has been very effective, and looking forward to kind of seeing how that program plays out. I think that's a great idea.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. And I just feel so lucky that we have so many members that are willing to step up into these brand new positions. I mean, they're essentially writing the program because it didn't exist before for us. So it's been wonderful. And I'm really, Caitlin and Lindsay took that program on, and they've just been amazing powerhouses. Another program that I'm excited about is our college outreach program. I think we hear this all the time, like, how did you get into proposals? And most people just kind of fell into them, right? We all know, and we're not the only chapter doing something like this. We've definitely, checked in and seen what other chapters are doing too. But the idea is to help kind of socialize, obviously, our profession at the college level, so that people who may be going after some kind of liberal arts degree or even business degree, communications or journalism or English, will understand that this is a viable career option for you. I know when I was in college, I used to go to the career service days, and people would say, what are you going to do with an English degree? Teach? Well, I did teach for a while and I loved it, but I couldn't make a career out of it. Like I said, I'm very motivated by money. I had to find something else to do with my love of writing.
Right.
So, we're looking at how to get into the colleges and maybe attend some of those career fairs. So Dina Stukenberg, she's been on our board in different capacities over the past. She is the chair of this program this year, and she's got a little committee behind her supporting her, and they're doing a great job kind of developing how we're going to roll out this program. So that's been really exciting to see develop. And it will be even more exciting to see it launch. I think it'll help increase exposure to APMP, and our membership numbers, and obviously the future of the proposal industry by getting people involved as early as possible. So
absolutely, that's such a great initiative as well. So I understand that your board has grown significantly in recent times. Is it because of, these new initiatives that are jumping off and starting, and you're just bringing in, individuals willing to take these new roles on?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It's a combination of people wanting to get involved and approaching us either, by emailing one of us that have been on the board, or we had so many people at Symposium last year come up and say that they wanted to get involved. So we just kept a list, and the minute it came time to start developing some of these positions, we didn't know that we were going to be able to launch, 9 new programs this year, but we were able to because we had so many people express interest in participating at the board level. So it was essentially like a pick list. We went through and we said, these are the programs we've talked about as a board. We'd love to launch these eventually. If we could find someone to start kicking them off now and even just start developing them, that's great. So it's been really amazing to see that, yes, we had 10 board members last year that were chairs, and this year we have 19. And our committees have grown as well. We used to just have the events committee that would help plan the symposium and the bid and proposal con breakfast that we put on for our chapter members. But we also created a marketing committee a few years ago to help support some of these positions, and, understanding that we're all volunteers, and sometimes, especially given the role, it can feel like another full-time or at least part-time job. So the idea behind the marketing committee was to give support to any chair who needed it around their marketing initiatives or developing their programs. And it's been very helpful, and that the committees even have grown exponentially. I think we have close to 20 people between the two committees now. And those are people who eventually may roll into a chair position. So it's really been inspiring to see not only the existing board that's been around as long as I have and longer, but to see all of the new people that want to get involved and contribute.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like a really thriving chapter for sure. You've also, spoken at some of the APMP bid and proposal conferences. Can you tell us if you have any memorable presentations or, some that stick out?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it was 2 years ago, I co-developed a presentation on the idea behind social capital. And sort of, understanding different personality types and how that applies to us as proposal professionals. So I co-developed that presentation with Erin Ortiz, who was my mentee from the mentorship program a few years back. And I ended up having, personal family issues that prevented me from attending symposium that year. So she graciously presented alone this presentation that we had worked on. She did an awesome job, and I have always kind of joked with her, like, I never really intended to present with you. It was my last task as your mentor, like, push the bird out of the nest and see if they can fly. So obviously that wasn't my true intention, but it worked out that way, and it's something that we can laugh about now. So she was amazing in stepping up and taking that on, and it was very well received. So I was really proud of her for that moment. And then last year I presented at Symposium, once on a panel with Sam Enslin and Kieran Kent Dean and Michelle Atkinson on proposal entrepreneurship. And that was a really great, engaging discussion, and I really enjoyed being a part of that. And all three of those women really inspire me. So I was, flattered to even be part of the panel. And I also gave a presentation on kind of creative ways to use SharePoint to collaborate with your team, and also did an introduction to Microsoft Teams because it was still relatively new. A lot of people were still using Skype for Business at the time, and some still are. So it was just kind of that transition and how to, start thinking about using Teams to collaborate. So focused on technology and collaboration, but specifically with this initiative that I had taken on when I was managing that team at Wells Fargo. We were a virtual team. We were all over the country, and I call it death by email. Like we were a large team, so one person would send an email and ask a question, and then like 3 people would respond to that, and then 2 more people would respond, and all of a sudden one email would turn into like 40 emails. So I was like, there has to be a better way. And this was before Microsoft Teams was launched. So I created a SharePoint site for us to collaborate on. And the presentation was just around like showing people sort of the different aspects of SharePoint and the tools that you can use on SharePoint to collaborate. And it totally eliminated our email craziness. So
that's amazing.
That was the crux of it. Yeah. And then I realized like just the need for Teams. I still wasn't even very experienced using it, but I had some exposure to it and I used it in my consulting business. So I had kind of thought after I was working on that presentation, the second half of the Teams portion, that I really didn't even need to go into SharePoint any longer because Teams kind of replaced the need. But again, it wasn't around when I was leading that team. So it was helpful to kind of show both creative ways of using them.
Oh, absolutely. So you've also obtained your APMP certifications. Can you tell us a little bit about your certification journey?
Yeah, I actually achieved both certifications, the foundation and the practitioner, back in 2012, I think. I'd already had quite a few years of experience under my belt when I took the foundation, and that was back when I was just starting to get serious about APMP and right before I attended my first conference. So it's kind of like when I must have had a moment at some point where I was like, this is definitely an organization I really need to contribute to. So I did the foundation. That was really, really stressful. Not to scare anyone who hasn't taken it yet, but anyone who has can sympathize. I took it, at home and by myself, and didn't do one of the study groups with the ATOs. So it was just a little intense for me. I was nervous. It's timed and scary, but got through it obviously. And then I pretty much decided that I wanted to plow through the practitioner right away. So, you know, I sat down and started working on it. And back then it was really nice because you could send like a sample to Charlie Devine and he would actually review it and give you feedback. So the minute he gave me the green light on my sample, it was really exciting to have that interaction with him. Such a great guy.
Yeah.
So I got the green light on the sample that I put together, and I just literally just plowed through it. I was like, I'm gonna get this done. I'm not gonna sit on it forever. It probably took me a week of, you know, kind of coming back to it and knocking out all those responses and gathering all the research that I needed to get it done. But I just plowed through it and got it done. And I definitely sympathize. I don't know if that's the right word, but I know they changed the format recently, and again, I don't know what it is with me and exams, but it sounds horrifying. So I'm really glad that I got it out of the way back when it was the PPAQ.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate. I hate exams. I hate tests. It's why I was an English major, because we write papers and we don't take tests. And
Right.
so I also feel blessed to have taken the practitioner when it was the paper-based answer and response type, more essay.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we are ready for our surprise rapid fire questions round.
Hey.
Fun.
You ready, Stacey?
I am not ready at all, but sure. Let's go.
Yes, let's start with a few things that you mentioned, Stacey, so that we'll settle slowly into the random questions. So you mentioned that you enjoy sewing clothes. What's the first thing you ever made?
Oh, that's a good question. So do I have to be fast in my answers of these rapid fire questions? Can I be very detailed? I learned how to sew. I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old, maybe. I was in 4-H with a couple of my girlfriends when I was really young. I guess we were in 4th or 5th grade. We just did this like sewing club, and I think I sewed a pillow the first thing that I ever sewed. And then I think I must have known even at a young age that I had an entrepreneurial spirit, because I started making these they're sort of like decorative dolls, I guess. They were these very fancy like dolls that lay on the ground like on a pillow. So I would make these little stuffed pillows, and like I used a hot glue gun to put beads on it, and it had this really pretty flowy dress and a little bonnet. And I don't know how, but my mom sold these for me when I was like 10 years old. So I was making money sewing little dolls when I was 10. I didn't do that for very long, and I actually put sewing aside and didn't pick it up again until I was pregnant with my son. And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make him I was feeling very domestic, I guess, being pregnant. So I pulled out my old sewing machine that I hadn't touched in a long time, and I made some curtains for his nursery. And again, put it away and didn't touch it again until maybe he was in 5th grade, and he wanted to be Link from The Legend of Zelda. And I was like, oh, I can make that costume. So I bought a pattern, and I made him this green tunic and some handmade felt boots, and again, put it away. I don't know why. I just didn't have much of a passion for it back then, but that was about it until maybe 2 years ago. I think I was just stressed and overwhelmed with work, and I realized that I needed some creative outlets that didn't have anything to do with writing or work. So I decided to start sewing again. And I actually, another fellow APMP member, Becky Petty, I used to work with her years ago. We're friends on Facebook, and she belongs to all these sewing groups. And I was watching all these beautiful things she was making and feeling very inspired. And she kind of introduced me to these online independent pattern designers. And one thing that I had never been successful at making is clothes, really. I mean, I stumbled through that costume that I made for my son, but he didn't really care because he was little. He thought it was great. But to be successful making clothes for myself, I had never been able to do. So, I found these independent pattern designers and tried to make a sweater for myself for the first time. And it actually was so easy. And I didn't have to Google a single word in the instructions. And I just felt this newfound level of confidence around sewing. So have been very inspired that way, and now can successfully make clothes for myself and others if I so choose.
That's great, Stacey. Do you have any plans to make a male sweater and a female sweater so that Ashley and I can?
You asking for a request? Send me your measurements. We'll see.
Thank you. Definitely. So, when I visited Hawaii, I just on the beach, I just have the drinks, then I had lots of fun. But when you visited Hawaii, you discovered that you like painting. Wow, that's a very interesting discovery in Hawaii.
That is a strange thing, right? Yeah. So my husband and I, well, we went to Hawaii first for our 10-year anniversary, and it was magical. But we went back for our 15-year anniversary without our son, and it was kind of our first adult trip away, really. And the resort that we stayed at had an adult-only pool, and obviously Hawaii, like they've got some amazing drinks between Mai Tais and pina coladas and frozen pineapples, and so definitely lots of alcohol on that trip. And one of the events that we participated in was this, the paint night or whatever. I mean, they do those everywhere, but for some reason we signed up for one at our resort as something to do one of the evenings. So, it was drinking and painting, and it was hilarious because we're not really good at all. So it was super fun just to kind of have that time with my husband and do something that we'd never done before. But I actually realized, despite the fact that we weren't great, it was a lot of fun. And this was around the same time that I was discovering that I really needed some creative outlets for myself and had just picked up sewing. So when I came home, I ordered my own paint supplies, and now I love to paint.
Nice.
Good for me. Good for my mental health.
100%, Stacey. So, and you mentioned that you're also a proud selling artist as well. So how much did you sell for?
Oh my gosh. So I really had just painted something for my husband. I think it was, two things for his comic book room. He collects comic books, as I mentioned, and he has, it's funny, he was relegated to the basement in our old house. I wouldn't let any of his collectible stuff move up into the house because I just felt like that wasn't going to work for me. But I painted him these two. He likes to collect Batman, so I painted a Harley Quinn and a Catwoman painting, just kind of like the portraits of their heads, and he loved them and hung them in his room, in his man cave. And I had scanned them and gotten just some prints. So I think he had convinced me, given me kind of a big head that they were actually good. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get prints. And we took some of those prints to the comic book shop that his friend owns. And they were just sitting there on the shelf forever. And I'm like, no one's gonna buy those. But then I went in one day and he gave me money and said that someone bought one of each. So I think he sold them for $10 a piece. It wasn't anything huge, but it was still exciting to know that there's some stranger out there that has these two paintings that I did.
Wow, that's impressive, Stacey. So that kind of brings us to this comic book passion that you and your husband has, Stacey. What's the most what we call sentimental comic book or something that you have, and what's something that you have that's really valuable or that's really exotic?
Oh, well, it's really his passion that I'm just kind of stuck with because I like to spend time with him.
Okay.
No, it's funny though, because I have found it's so strange. He started these new hours lately, and with COVID and all the shop closing, he obviously can't go comic book hunting anymore. So his local comic book shop has been doing these online auctions, and I've actually started watching them if my husband's still sleeping because he has to work at night. And I'm just like, what happened? When did this happen? Why am I watching this? But he has some very valuable comic books, I think. One that he doesn't have any longer, but he actually got to buy a collection off of a friend. They had a bunch of comic books in storage, and they were like, yeah, we're going to clean out the storage unit. So they knew Derek collected, and they reached out to him and sold him this entire collection for a ridiculously low price. And there was a book in there, for comic book collectors, it's a big deal, but it's a Hulk 181. And I guess that's the first appearance of I don't even know who, honestly, but it's the first appearance of somebody, maybe Wolverine, I think, and it's worth a lot of money, like 5 times more than what he paid for this entire collection, and it was just one book. So he was really excited to have that, and ultimately he sold it because he wasn't collecting those, and he wanted to buy things that he was collecting, but that was kind of an exciting find for him, and I think that's why he does it, like the hunt of finding some rare, expensive book for like $1. It's like, that's why he keeps going. So it's an interesting hobby, and one that I don't hate as much as I used to. So it's a fun way for us to spend time.
That's it. So in your opinion, if there is a fight between Superman and Batman, who do you think will win?
That's a good question. Probably Batman, because my husband's obsessed with Batman, and it's a big part of our lives. So I guess I'm going to go that route. How about Thor? Can I take Thor?
Oh, yeah, you can take anybody. Yeah, that's good. So, and also, you have a passion of remodeling projects, and you have this amazing skill of helping, and pretty much ensuring your husband gets the job done, and you just decide. Maybe that's a special art that you need to keep it to yourself, because I don't want my wife to hear that. There might be few listeners who might be willing to hear. Maybe you could share your passion on that, how it all began, and what's the recent design space that you've done, Stacey?
Yeah, sure. So I'm sure this isn't unique to me. Like, I think a lot of homeowners, when they want to remodel something, maybe it's me. Maybe it is just me, but I doubt it. I mean, I've had contractors come in and give me estimates for projects, and then I'm just shocked at how much it actually costs, and not to diminish their skill and the hard work that it takes, because trust me, after surviving some of these projects, I understand it's probably worth every penny they're asking for, but I'm also pretty frugal. I guess that's a nicer way to say cheap, and I usually pretty much bulk the price. So my husband and I have decided to tackle some projects that probably no one should tackle if you're not an expert. One was a bathroom, a complete bathroom remodel project. So this house that we recently just sold it, but it was sort of like my dream house, this idea of my dream house once upon a time. It was built by this kind of renowned architect in sort of the, it was just this contemporary style, like strange house. It had weird angles and like round, there were 2 round bathrooms in this house, completely round bathrooms, which is not anything I had ever seen before. I was fascinated by this, but the house was straight out of 1969, and we got a very good deal on it because it hadn't been updated at all. So it needed a lot of work. And the first couple of years, we dumped a lot of money into having professionals redo some of the projects that needed to be done. And when it came time for this bathroom, it was my bathroom. It was like the 3rd bathroom in the house. It didn't need a professional touch necessarily. I never imagined that we were going to sell that house. So I was like, we can probably do this. We've done enough, flooring projects, etc., to stumble through this. So I got the quotes, and they were insane. And I was like, I'm not spending that much money on a bathroom remodel. So we did it ourselves, from the demo to, picking out the materials to installing everything. And it was a huge learning experience for us, and it was very challenging. But essentially there was like a tub and a shower, and the tub was like one of those old cast iron ones. So my son had a good time like beating that up with a sledgehammer and taking it apart to get it out of there. And then because it came out of a round bathroom, like we had to design and build a custom shower that was round. So thankfully there are like shower kits. We turned it from a tub into a standing shower. So we had taken this bathroom down to the studs. So we had to replace rounded drywall, and we had to replace some of the subfloor because the plumbing for the tub was much larger than what we needed for the standing custom shower that we were building. And when it came to the actual plumbing, we did hire a professional. There was no way we were touching that because we could have wrecked the entire basement if we had screwed it up. But we redid some of the studs and put in the subfloor, and insulated where the shower head was, and replaced all the fixtures, and installed the new floor, and built this beautiful custom round shower. And it was just a lot of fun designing that project. And I actually did do some of the physical manual labor. My husband had to run up and down the stairs and cut all the tiles, but I installed them. So it was a nice collaborative effort between us, and it was beautiful when it was done. So it was really kind of this exciting project to have tackled.
I think even listening to this, Stacey, I'm slightly tired. I mean, like I feel.
Yeah.
I feel amazing. I mean, like guys, if you need any help in remodels, sweaters, clothes, arts, comic books, please reach out to Stacey.
That's right.
Don't need to
Oh
pay.
no.
There we go. Extra service. That's it. That's brilliant. So, if you could steal credit for any great piece of art, which one would you claim, Stacey?
Oh, that is such a great question. Probably something by Monet, but it's just beautiful stuff. So I'm not really much of an art historian. We have an amazing art museum here in Cleveland, but there is one of the Monet pieces on display here, and it's probably the one that's made the most impact on me because I remember it, and it's gorgeous. And I actually, have taken pictures of it and put them on my screen. So obviously, I'm very impressed by that piece.
Got you. Okay.
So sure, if I could take credit for that, I totally would.
Monet seems to be really popular. I think the 3 out of 4 times he was the one who people picked. Yeah, that's something interesting there.
Really?
Yeah, that's it. So let's accelerate now with a rapid fire. Have you ever sent a text message to a wrong person?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
You want to share?
I just recently had. I'm on this full-time consulting contract, and I have my business Outlook for Right Fit Solutions too. So I have my emails together in Outlook, and I was sending a meeting for my consulting gig that had nothing to do with Right Fit Solutions, and I sent it from the wrong calendar, and I was mortified. I was like, well, those people are going to be confused. So yes, I feel like that's the equivalent of sending a text to the wrong person. It's mortifying.
Actually, that doesn't sound that bad, Stacey. I do that all the time.
Really? I was like, clearly I need separation of Outlook accounts here. Let me remove that. But yeah, it's funny. I guess I was plowing, full speed ahead and not really paying attention to what I was doing. But yep, I certainly have done that.
So what was the last gift you gave someone?
That's a good question. I actually just got to go on a gift giving spree this past weekend. That was really fun and fulfilling. So my son, I mentioned, is a senior in high school this year. So he's part of the class that's graduating in social isolation. So prom has been canceled, graduation has been canceled. I probably care about these things more than he does, but still, disappointing as a parent when you wait for 18 years to celebrate these big moments with your kid. So the town that he's graduating from, as many other towns are, I don't think this is unique to our little town. They did this thing on Facebook where they're adopting the seniors. So community members essentially can, sign up to a quote unquote adopt a senior. And 3 of his friends, or 3 kids from the city, their parents hadn't promoted them on Facebook, but I knew that obviously there are kids that are graduating and I wanted to celebrate them as well. So we adopted these 3 kids, and I had fun doing some retail therapy and buying some custom gifts for them. So I had these t-shirts made that said Senior Skip Day Champions, Class of 2020, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know if they thought it was funny, but I thought it was funny. So I had these custom t-shirts made, and then these custom water bottles, and then just bought them like some of their favorite snacks and candies and drinks, and got to go around delivering those last Saturday to these kids. So it was a fun thing to do, and they were all surprised and very grateful. And also my son was adopted by a few lovely, wonderful community members as well. So it's been fun to see his surprise and gratitude of, just knowing that the community is supporting him and others, and trying to make this a special time for them, despite the circumstances.
That's beautiful. So what would the world be like if it was filled with male and female copies of you?
It would be awful. I don't know. I'm kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I think of myself as like this control freak. Like I am obviously a dominant personality. I'm not shy. I like to be in control of things. I honestly don't know what would happen if everyone were like me. I mean, we'd probably fight all the time. How do you deal with people who always want to be in control? If everyone always wants to be in control, that would be horrifying. So thanks for that thought.
That's great. I think because we're multi-talented, I think we will be a self-sufficient economy. You know, it will be like everybody knows something to do, and the world will be a better place. I think so, Stacey. So,
Oh, thank you.
you finish this interview, and then you step out of your office, and suddenly you find a lottery ticket and ends up winning $100 million. What would you do with that money?
Oh, I mean, I probably would, find some charitable things to do with it for sure. But for me, I would definitely move to Hawaii. That's all I'm working for now, I think. I was actually at a networking event last night and people were talking about long-term goals. And I was like, I'm not a good person to talk to you about long-term goals because my true, honest long-term goal is to work as much as I can now and get myself in a position to retire early on the beach of Hawaii. So that's what I would do. If I found a lottery ticket and wanted a ton of money, I'd go to Hawaii now.
That's amazing.
You could find me on the beach with a Mai Tai in my hand, for sure.
Already, Stacey. Let's see. So choose a movie title for the story of your life.
Oh boy. Overworked, probably, by choice.
Okay. And if Hollywood made the movie Overworked, which female actress would you like to play on your role?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I don't know, probably maybe like Rebel Wilson. She's funny and sarcastic, and I guess I kind of see myself in her a little bit. So I think she'd be good at playing me.
And the genre of the movie most probably will be comedy, romantic comedy type?
Yeah, I think it'd be a comedy.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a proper drama or something like that.
I try to avoid drama at all costs, but
right.
I am a pretty sarcastic person, so I think just by nature it would have to be a comedy.
Have you ever cried watching a movie or reading a book?
Oh, all the time. I'm pretty sappy and sentimental. Sometimes I cry watching commercials. It's ridiculous. I can't be the only one though, right?
It's quite fascinating. We had the same response. Ashley, do you remember from who?
No, I can't remember. Who was it?
It was Christine, the friend.
Oh, that's right.
Nice.
Yes.
It's so weird, the things that can make you emotional. Like sometimes I maybe listen to a song, and I guess maybe the mood that I'm in or what I'm thinking about, like I just get overwhelmed. So yeah, I'm a crier. It comes easy.
Yes. I think just before we started, you were talking to your pets, Stacey. What's the name of your pets?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to admit how many pets I have. We have 4 cats and 2 dogs. The dogs are schnauzers that we adopted from rescues. Both of them had names when we adopted them, but we changed them. So our one schnauzer came from the Schnauzer Rescue of Cincinnati, and his name is Joey because of the way he like kicks when he runs. It looks like a kangaroo. It's actually really funny and probably very fitting. But in this house, we pretty much name our pets after Batman characters. So we renamed him Zaz, and I think that's fitting too because he's kind of a spaz. So we like that rhyming. So that's Zaz, and then Silver we adopted from. She was rescued from a puppy mill situation in northern Michigan, and they had named her Snooky at the shelter, but I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So she's a Schnauzer mix, and her coloring is Silver, but Silver is also the name of a Batman character. So there's a character that was in the show Gotham. Her name was Silver St. Cloud, and we were watching that. It was on when we adopted her, and she was like a character in the show at that time. So it just seemed to work for her. So that's how we named her. And then our cats too. The only one that we kept the original name was Chloe. That's what they named her at the shelter. And she is super fluffy and adorable, and she just looks like kind of a Princess Chloe. So we left that one alone. And then we have these two cats we call the sisters. They're black and huge, huge cats. Like they're bigger than our dogs. Our dogs are schnauzers, so they're not that tiny, but these cats are huge. And my husband named them Harley and Ivy, again after Batman. So Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. And then our last cat, it's funny, she was the last cat that we adopted. And we didn't intend on getting another cat, but the shelter that we donate to sometimes and we follow their story, they have this litter of cats that were all black, and then they had two Siamese sisters, which to me, cat genetics just blows my mind. I don't understand how a litter of kittens can be all black and have two, that they're Siamese with like blue eyes and like seal point Siamese. They look like purebred cats, but they're not. So we adopted one of these because I just fell in love with her, and they had told us that the cat was a boy. So we had named him Oswald when we brought him home after the penguin, which again is Batman. And then we found out that Oswald was in fact a girl, so we had to rename her, and we were fresh out of Batman names, so we went with Sansa from the Game of Thrones. So that's it. Those are our pets.
Perfect. I think we will leave it as a challenge to the listeners to name all your pets, and if they could put in the comment section, I think we will give them a prize tag. Don't you think?
There you go. Yes, they deserve a prize for that.
Who haven't you met recently and you hope that they're doing okay?
I would say people in my family. I don't live around my family. They're all in northern Michigan. And my little sister is even farther. She's out in Colorado. So I don't get to see them very often. And obviously with COVID, it's a concern. I worry about everyone's health and well-being and isolation too. I don't think it's good for people to be isolated for this long. So I worry about them and not being able to see them.
That's nice. So as you rightly said, we are in this COVID isolation mode. What have you observed lately that reminded you that people are good?
I think it's helpful that I'm in this situation with my son graduating, and it's been really beautiful to see the ways that the community members have stepped up to kind of rally around these kids and let them know that their achievements are worth celebrating. It's just been really cool to kind of be a part of that community and to celebrate these kids in a different and unique way. It's been inspiring.
That's good. Last question from me. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like I've been really lucky in my life and career. I've come in contact with a lot of really influential people, some good and some bad. I think that we all have people who have been bad influences in a way. And, for me, I've had some managers in the past who were not very good leaders, probably had no business managing people at all. And it's through those interactions that I think I really started to form what kind of leader I wanted to be. So I think, even when we have bad influences, we can learn and grow from them. But some of the great leaders that I've been in contact with in my life that have influenced me have been some inspiring entrepreneurs or some great leaders that I've been blessed to work for. One of these people is my former mentee, Erin Ortiz. I mentioned her earlier, kind of taking the leap and taking over that presentation on her own. But it's been really inspiring for me to kind of see her growth and development from where she was when we started the mentorship program. She accomplished her foundation certification, and then she won the Charlie Devine Scholarship last year and got Practitioner, her Practitioner certification, and she's a fellow 40 under 40 winner as well, and just recently got accepted into an executive MBA program. So she influences me and inspires me daily. I swear, like just her positive attitude and her determination really kind of pushes me to keep going and not get stagnant in where I'm at with things professionally. I think my former manager, Amy Robbins, has been a big influence for me. she was the first person to kind of give me the opportunity to be a manager, to lead a proposal department. And she was a huge advocate for the skills that I had and for introducing APMP to this team, and was just very supportive of me as I learned how to kind of navigate that and become a leader and a manager. She was an excellent boss and an excellent leader, and is an excellent mentor and friend to me now. And I mentioned earlier that Betty Storino was my first sort of APMP friend, from meeting her on that bus on the way to conference in Atlanta to getting involved with her on the board. She's been, an instrumental mentor and in just someone to look up to as the kind of leader that I want to be. And she was chapter chair a few years ago when I started on the board. So it's been very impressive to work with her, and I'm very grateful for that mentorship and that relationship. And then otherwise, just entrepreneurs. I think I've mentioned, a theme throughout the past that I'm really inspired by other entrepreneurs. So, from the nonprofit that I did some grant writing for as an intern back in the day to, I actually met Sam Emslin for the first time in 2013 at that first BPC that I went to. And I kind of jokingly say that I started the Sam Emslin fan club, but in reality, if that's a real thing, it's been in existence much longer than I've known her, because she's amazing. But I just love her and am so inspired by her and her success, and how much she gives back to the industry too. And then Karen Kent Dean and Michelle Atkinson, the other co-presentees that I worked with last year. Super inspired by them and their successful businesses and their drive and determination in the industry, and other entrepreneurs that I've crossed along the way. I don't know if it's unique to me, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and they've all been very, very inspirational to me.
That's the longest response for this question.
Really? I'm sorry. I told you I'd like to talk.
Pretty comprehensive.
I could go on.
Yeah.
I could go on, I swear.
So we're down to our final 3 questions for you, Stacey. Looking back, when you began your career, and it can be, when you began just, leaving Michigan, or when you began proposals, however, wherever you want to look to, what's one thing you wish you had known?
Oh, I guess I wish I would have known to have confidence in myself at a younger age. I think it took me a long time to get to a point where I felt confident and I felt like I had something to contribute to anyone else. I think it was that belief in myself that I wish I had learned at a much younger age.
Absolutely. It sounds, though, that you have had some amazing influences on your life and career over the years. What's the best piece of advice that you've received, and who gave it to you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm sure I've gotten tons of great advice from especially all these wonderful people that I've mentioned, but of course I won't remember any of them right now. I do think one thing that resonates with me, it's more funny than anything, but my realtor back in the day, I don't know, this just sticks with me. It's a story I love to tell, I guess, but when my husband and I were trying to sell our first home and move to this fancy suburb because my son was getting ready to start school and we wanted him to live in a good district, we really couldn't afford to live in this community at all. And, we just couldn't find a house in our budget. And I remember her saying to me, "You need to make more money." And she was right. I did. I was still kind of at, an entry-level role within proposals, and I hadn't really started to kind of climb that ladder yet and push myself to see what I could really do. And I mean, she was right, and it stuck with me. And honestly, it really motivated me because I wanted to live in this community, and I wanted my son to grow up in this town. And I think it's kind of set me on the trajectory that I'm on in a funny way. I always joke with her because I think she kind of set me on the path to success. I don't know if I would have ended up in complacency if it wasn't for that sort of reality check, but yeah, she was right. And then the APMP, the wonderful organization it is, armed me with that compensation survey, and I was like, she's right. I really should be making more money, and I just used that, sort of wielded it as my weapon, and it's helped me a lot in my life. So that's probably it.
Oh, so thanks, that's amazing.
the sage advice you can get from your realtor if you get to know them.
Yeah. So we've spent, a good part of this time looking back on where you've come from and all of your achievements. What are you looking forward to in the future?
Oh, I guess jokingly, I'm looking forward to not being the president of APMP GMC just because it's very time consuming. So I'm looking forward to taking on a lesser role next year and, trusting all the wonderful individuals who are involved kind of carry the torch forward. I'm excited about that. And I can be excited about that because there's such an inspiring and dedicated group of individuals dedicated there. So I'm looking forward to that, truthfully. And just maybe eventually relaxing a little bit.
Absolutely. Relaxing sounds amazing. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate.
Exactly.
I love it. I love all of it, though. I feel like I thrive in chaos. It's probably a little strange.
Amazing, Stacey. So, Stacey, is there any part of your life or career that we haven't touched that you might spend like a couple of minutes on?
Oh, no, I think you guys have learned more about me than anybody probably ever wanted to.
That's great. That's great to know. Okay, so thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us on Scribble Talk. It's been a real privilege to have you with us here. Wish you all the good health and happiness. Please do continue to inspire every person around you. Keep on building on your talents, the multi-talents, and wish you all the very success in everything you do. Stay safe, stay kind, stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you so much. Same to both of you. Thank you, Ashley and Bhaskar, for having me. It's been fun.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.